it's great to stand on stage and show some of our work made by hundreds and hundreds of talented people around the world. So I'm just a guy who gets to stand on the stage and talk about it.
Great. You were really fresh. Your keynote was really awesome. We want to thank you here in Mexico. Just really brief questions, nothing compromising. Regarding, you spoke about a lot about building meaning to the brand. A lot of companies build meaning to the brand, but they don't see branding as a real good investment. They see it like just a waste of money. From your perspective, how often does a brand need to invest on building meaning for the brand?
Every day. I'll tell you a story, not about Coke. This is about a telecoms company in the UK 10 years ago, but it should make sense. Why do you choose T-Mobile or Orange or Telefonica? You can't touch it, you can't hold it. As long as it works, they're all the same. So somebody did an investigation into the value of brand, and they used one of these companies as an example. If you look at the assets of a business, the physical stuff, and you say, well, what's that worth? And then you look at the stock market valuation, which is how much the world thinks it's worth. The assets were 2%. The brand was 98%. Because it's the emotional connection that makes me choose X over Y. Now, with a brand like Coke, there are many sodas. There's, of course, taste, and we taste better. We do. I believe that. But in order to get you to try it in the first place, and then to drink it a second time, and then to buy one for your friend, that's an emotional brand connection. So we have to invest in it every day. And as you heard me say, if we take our eye off, if we stop, then there's some people out there that don't get it. We're just another product. And if we're just another product, then they'll go with a cheaper or another brand that builds that connection. So it's absolutely essential. And I say that as a brand marketer, but also as a consumer. Everything we wear, the cars that we drive, the possessions in our house, the things we love, we buy for an emotional reason, not just a rational reason. Because there's always a cheaper option. There's always a cheaper car. That's true. But you buy the car that you love.
And I ask you this, Niall, because there's a lot of marketeers and brand managers that they assume the posture of saying, I used to do branding online, but I only do performance now, and it sounds cool, It sounds like, oh, you evolved, but I'm totally agree with you, because brand building needs to be, from the perspective of meaningfulness, it needs to be all the time. And I think there's brands that just subestimate that, and I'm sure you don't subestimate that. So
can I ask you a question back?
Yeah.
A question to those people who switch from brand to performance marketing. So performance marketing is wonderful, and I am getting educated every day by some very smart people around performance marketing. I'm a content guy. The question I always ask them is, what story are you telling? In your performance marketing, in your optimization of that online experience, whether it's renting a house or buying a car, or researching a car, using Facebook, what story are you telling? Because the brand defines the language, the use of content, the position and size and hierarchy of that content. That's performance marketing. But the brand tells you the meaning in the brand, the value in the brand, the personality of the brand tells you what pieces to do where. And the performance marketing tells you how to do that. So the two go together like ham and eggs. They're much better together. And I believe that. And I need a partner in performance marketing, so that we can, the combination of the two of us is very, very powerful, I think.
Wow, thank you so much. They're a compliment. Now, I was reading that you were really involved in the World Cup in Brazil. What was your biggest challenge and your biggest satisfaction?
It's a great question. Our biggest challenge at Coke was to get 175 countries to tell the same story. Now, the World Cup is a story everybody can understand. Where we differ from Nike and Adidas is that with that kind of story, we have to tell many, many different versions of it in order that it is relevant. So in South Africa, there's a story that is more relevant to the South African audience and the Africa audience than, say, the story that's told in Brazil. But they all need to connect back to that single ideal. Whereas I think Nike and Adidas, and they're wonderful at it, both of those brands did some fantastic work this time, are able to tell one big story in just a small number of pieces of content, like the big films. And for that, that is enough for them. And then they tell a story around that socially. But we need multiple stories. So that was the biggest challenge in how to operationalize that. What did I love? I loved Brazil. Now, if you can stop for a moment thinking of the team, and by the way, when the team fell apart against Germany, how many people actually poked fun? Not many. Most people were sad because they loved Brazil. And I think Brazil is the biggest winner of this World Cup. And there are problems down there, of course, but the focus of the world on Brazil and the love that poured out of Brazil and the passion was incredible. And I thought that was wonderful. And I feel truly humbled to be part of it. And I really don't know how Russia is going to compete with that in 4 years' time.
Well, thank you so much. Just one last question. Should brands see themselves as publishers regarding content?
It's an interesting question and a quandary for us and others. Brands have a very good story to tell, but you have to recognize what your role is in the world. Red Bull have wonderfully and inspiring become a publisher that happens to make soft drinks. We're a soft drinks company, and so our content is there to build that connection. So we are not a publisher in that way, and we need partners that can. But what we do need is publishing partners that can help us tell broader and rounder stories around happiness, because we can't do it all on our own. And that's, I think, where the value. We need to embrace publishing as part of marketing, but not become a publisher ourselves, if that helps.
Thank you so much, Niall. Your time. You're really interesting guy. Thank you for the inspiration. Gracias a todos los que estuvieron viendo este video a través de NeuronaTV. Y bueno, no se pierdan los siguientes videos que vamos a estar compartiendo sobre este gran evento de IAB Conecta 2014.